Welcome! In this video, I'll introduce the basic anatomy of a prompt. The anatomy of prompts differs depending on the problem that you're trying to solve. However, there are some common elements for crafting text-based prompts. Prompting generative AI models is a bit like ordering a drink at a coffee shop. The more specific you are, the more likely you are to get what you want. Imagine that you walk into a coffee shop and you just shout out, "Drink!" First, you're going to get some well-deserved odd looks, but more importantly, you're not going to get the drink that you want. Now, this may seem obvious with such an extreme example. However, it's not uncommon to see vague prompts that are attempting to generate very specific responses. Let's explore how specificity influences responses using the GPT 3.5 Turbo model from OpenAI. Let's imagine that we want to know the role that oceans play in climate regulation and how they impact the water cycle. This is a fairly specific request. We're going to start with a generic prompt and progressively refine it to be more specific. I've prompted the model with, "Teach me about oceans." This response contains a range of topics. It lists 7 bullet points with a summary of each topic. Notice the response doesn't contain information related to our very specific request. Going back to our coffee shop analogy, this is a bit like telling the barista, "I'll have a drink that contains water." Sure, you've narrowed it down ever so slightly, but you're still leaving a lot of room for interpretation. The odds of getting exactly what you want remain slim. Now, generic prompts such as this have valid use cases. For example, they can be useful when exploring new information because they provide a broad overview of a topic. They can also be useful for assessing the capabilities of a model. Let's refine the prompt to be a little more specific. I've prompted the model with, "Teach me about the role of oceans in climate regulation." Notice the response is more specific. It contains some information that we're actually targeting, though it's still too generic to be useful. This is a bit like telling the barista, "I'd like a hot drink with a hint of lemon." There are specific details in this request, but not enough to get exactly what you want. Let's refine this prompt one more time. I've prompted the model with, "Teach me about the role of oceans in climate regulation and how they impact the water cycle." Notice the response is now very specific. It contains the information that we're targeting. This is like telling the barista, "I would like a hot green tea with a hint of lemon and a splash of oat milk." This level of specificity is likely to produce the desired results. Crafting prompts is an iterative process, similar to any other form of writing. The first draft is seldom the same as the final version. You'll likely find yourself creating prompts for data and use cases outside of your expertise. It's okay to start with more generic prompts and refine them as you progress. We'll talk more about the process of creating prompts in another video. Let's talk about the anatomy of prompts. Prompts are structured differently depending on the problem that you're trying to solve. However, there are some common elements for crafting text-based prompts. First up is the objective. This is the goal of the prompt. This can take the form of instructions or questions. For example, summarize this document, or what is photosynthesis? The objective defines the expected response. This is common across all prompts because all prompts are trying to achieve a specific outcome. Next is the context. This is additional information provided to models to help generate the desired response. For example, if you're trying to summarize a document, the document would be the context. Context is common, though it's not always required. Markers are the final element. These are used to mark specific sections of the prompt. For example, a context marker is used to indicate the start of the context. A question marker is used to indicate the start of a question, and a response marker is used to indicate the start of the response. Markers help the model to understand the structure of the prompt and the purpose of the subsequent text. Simple prompts may not require any markers, though they're commonly used in more complex prompts. While there are commonly used marker formats, there are no standards. Models are very good at recognizing patterns. So As long as the markers are consistent, the model should be able to understand the structure of the prompt. These are the basic prompt elements that are common across a range of use cases. Before investing time into crafting prompts, do some research to see if there are any established best practices for your specific use case and model. This could save you a lot of time and frustration. Okay, this seems like a good stopping point. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.